startup begins by showing two young men named Taek-il and Sang-pil, where Taek-il, a blonde-haired boy, has just bought a used motorbike online. However, the conditions turned out to be not as expected, and the motor finally broke down. When trying to restart the engine, they were suddenly confronted by the thugs who kicked and broke their motorcycle's rearview mirror. Taek-il is annoyed and then tries to chase the thugs and rides recklessly so that they become the target of the police who are on patrol. Due to a problem with his motorbike, Taek-il can't even ride his motorbike properly, so he crashes into something and ends up falling. Taek-il and Sang-pil are immediately taken to the police station, where Taek-il's mother then comes to them and scolds Taek-il for buying a motorbike with his school fees. Taek-il then reveals to his mother that he wants to quit school because he doesn't think his mother will be able to afford his tuition. Hearing this, his mother, who is a former professional volleyball athlete, then slapped Taek-il in the face because he had made her very angry and hurt her heart by saying that. The next day, Taek-il, who doesn't care about his future and doesn't want to live the life his mother wanted him to, decides to run away from home. Without a goal and only with $10 in his pocket, he then boarded a bus that took him somewhere. On the other hand, his mother, who works hard to provide for their daily needs, tries to find Taek-il's whereabouts by calling him, but he didn't answer his phone either. Although she is very hard on Taek-il, but she hopes that Taek-il can live a better life than her. That's why she works hard to pay for Taek-il's schooling to college. But it seems Taek-il doesn't understand his mother's wishes and instead leaves her. Meanwhile, Taek-il turns out to be on a bus that leads to a small town called Gunsan in North Jeolla province. After getting off the bus, Taek-il accidentally met a red-haired girl named Kyung-ju, who then punched him in the stomach because he made her angry. After walking the streets around there, Taek-il, who was tired and hungry, saw a noodle shop that offered a bowl of noodle dishes that was quite cheap. He immediately rushed there and met the man who owned the restaurant named Gong. Just as Taek-il is about to eat a bowl of noodles for $3, a food delivery courier enters the shop and heads to the kitchen. However, there is a bit of commotion in the kitchen, and Taek-il sees the courier and rushes away. Taek-il seems curious about what happened there but doesn't dare to ask. After that, he decides to spend the night at a public bathhouse and contemplates his next move. Elsewhere, Sang-pil is seen living with his grandmother, where she makes a living by shelling nuts. The next day, when Taek-il returns to the noodle shop to eat, he finds that they need a food delivery courier. Without thinking, Taek-il immediately applied for the job. Gong then tells Taek-il that he must work for at least 3 months before requesting a day off or time off to return home. Taek-il immediately agreed. Taek-il is then introduced to a food delivery courier named Gu-man, who seems a little careless and drops the change he was carrying. The scene then switches and shows Sang-pil meeting a man named Dong-hwa, who offers him a job. However, Dong-hwa is reluctant to reveal the type of work and is about to reveal it to Sang-pil when he has a job interview. Turning back to Taek-il, the blonde-haired youth was apparently very curious about the noodle shop cook after the incident he saw yesterday. Taek-il then goes to the kitchen to meet Geo-seok, a muscular man with a very intimidating expression and gaze. Due to Taek-il's impolite attitude towards older people and his words that irritated Geo-seok, he was immediately beaten by Geo-seok until he collapsed unconscious. Due to the incident, Taek-il faints into the night and is very surprised to learn that Geo-seok is next to him and sleeps with his eyes wide open. Taek-il turns out to be in a mess provided for the employees at the noodle shop. The next day, Taek-il starts his first day working as a food delivery courier. Due to his nosy and outspoken nature, Taek-il often irritates Geo-seok, especially when he makes fun of his big body. Elsewhere, Sang-pil turns out to be working for Dong-hwa as a loan shark as well as a debt collector. Meanwhile, Taek-il seems to be getting along with his co-workers, even though he often argues with Geo-seok over trivial matters. Geo-seok and Taek-il then made a bet, where Taek-il ended up falling unconscious after Geo-seok punched him with one punch. Meanwhile, Sang-pil, who is distributing business cards at the loan office where he works, accidentally sees Taek-il's mother on the side of the road, and she seems to be in trouble. After that, Taek-il is seen delivering food to someone who turns out to be Kyung-ju, the red-haired girl who met him at the bus terminal. Because Taek-il is always rude, even to a woman, Yoon-jo then hits him. Her anger peaked when Taek-il accidentally touched her breast, so Yoon-jo immediately beat him. When Taek-il comes home battered, Geo-seok can't help but mock him all the way. Shortly after, Taek-il's cell phone rings, signaling an incoming video call. But because Taek-il was cleaning himself, Geo-seok answered the call. It turns out that the caller is Sang-pil, and he looks surprised when Geo-seok answers the phone. Taek-il saw this, then grabbed his cell phone. Sang-pil apparently wants to tell Taek-il about his mother, who seems to be having a hard time. However, Taek-il doesn't seem to care and instead hangs up straight away. While having a meal together, Taek-il accidentally tells his co-workers that he has been beaten by a girl. Hearing this, Geo-seok mocked him even more until he burst out laughing. Elsewhere, Yoon-jo, who has just arrived at her hotel room, is surprised by the presence of two foreign men chatting with her roommates. Yoon-jo and the two men then get into a fight, but Yoon-jo was beaten badly by them, so she ran away. Meanwhile, Taek-il and his co-workers relaxing on the rooftop saw Yoon-jo running towards them. Taek-il, who wanted revenge, then jumped down and stopped her. But as it turns out, Yoon-jo is in trouble because the two men are after her and are about to beat her. Taek-il doesn't stay silent and rushes to help Yoon-jo, even though he gets beaten up in the end. Because the fight sparked a commotion, the residents there immediately came out of their homes, so the two men finally decided to run away from there. Taek-il then takes Yoon-jo to a diner to have her injuries treated immediately. After that, Yoon-jo thanked them and said goodbye. Seeing Yoon-jo barefoot, Taek-il then lends his shoes to her. Taek-il seems to be getting used to his job of delivering food and working diligently. One day, Taek-il returns to deliver food for Yoon-jo, who then returns his shoes. However, Taek-il refuses Yoon-jo, who wants to pay for the meal. That evening, Taek-il finally gets his first paycheck and plans to treat them all. Gong then suggests Taek-il come home from time to time and visit his mother. Because Taek-il ignored Gong's advice, Geo-seok slapped him in the face and advised him harshly. This apparently managed to make Taek-il realize, and he finally decided to visit his mother. However, upon arriving home, Taek-il finds a note and finds out that his mother is currently at work. Taek-il then meets Sang-pil, where they then tell each other's lives after not seeing each other for a long time. Taek-il suggests that Sang-pil quit his job as a loan shark and debt collector out of concern for his safety. But Sang-pil doesn't seem to care about Taek-il's words. After that, Taek-il then visited his mother, who now owns a simple bakery which he bought at a low price. He then tells his mother that now he works at a noodle shop in Gunsan City. However, his mother scolded him because he worked hard to pay for Taek-il's school and told him to go home and continue his studies. Taek-il went against his mother's wishes and left after giving his mother his first salary. After Taek-il leaves, a man comes to see his mother and warns that the bakery will soon be demolished because Taek-il's mother apparently bought the building illegally built by the previous owner. A few days later, Sang-pil is asked to collect a debt from a male shop owner. However, he was beaten so badly that he had to undergo treatment at the hospital. Elsewhere, Taek-il has to experience an incident that causes him to fall on the road when a car accidentally nudges the motorbike he is riding on, causing it to fall. The car driver turns out to be one of the men who beat Yoon-jo. Shortly afterward, Yoon-jo is finally accepted to work at a noodle shop as a waitress, where Gong offers her to occupy her late daughter's room after finding out that Yoon-jo doesn't have a place to live. To welcome Yoon-jo's arrival as a new employee, they then go to a karaoke place to have some fun. On his return from there, Taek-il meets the man who had harmed him on the street and immediately demands revenge. However, Taek-il can be easily knocked down by the man, so Geo-seok then intervenes by smearing the man's face with chips. Elsewhere, Sang-pil, who has been discharged from the hospital, tries to take revenge on the man who beat him. However, he seems hesitant and realizes that his actions were wrong. Not long after, the man who harmed Taek-il comes to the restaurant with a group of thugs, where they then wreak havoc there until the ashes of Gong's daughter's late cremation are scattered everywhere. Geo-seok was finally unable to contain his anger and immediately beat the thugs to a pulp. Taek-il and his co-workers find out that Geo-seok used to be a gangster boss who was highly respected in the area, even by the police. At that time, Geo-seok, who was injured after a fight with his rival gangster, accidentally met Gong, who was about to end his life in frustration after his daughter's death. Geo-seok then saves Gong and asks him not to give up hope and continue to live. Since then, Geo-seok decides to start a new life as a cook at Gong's diner, and leaves his life as a gangster. After the chaos, that night, Gong's diner is suddenly filled with gangsters who turn out to be Geo-seok's men. A man named Tae-soon then asks Geo-seok to return to being a gangster boss because their rival gangs often create chaos in their territory. Realizing that his existence might endanger Gong and the others, Geo-seok finally decides to leave and return to his old life as a gangster boss. Gong seems to understand Geo-seok's decision and asks him to come back anytime because he will always be welcome there. Taek-il seems devastated by Geo-seok's departure because it turns out that he has considered Geo-seok as his own family, even though they always fight and Geo-seok often mocks and beats him. Elsewhere, Sang-pil sees that Taek-il's mother's bakery has been sealed and immediately alerts Taek-il over the phone. The next day, Taek-il immediately visits his mother, accompanied by Kyung-ju. His mother then revealed that it turned out that she had been tricked by the previous building owner who bought the land illegally. Taek-il, who seems frustrated with his mother's problems, then calls Geo-seok for help. However, Geo-seok instead asks Taek-il to grow up and solve his own problems. Meanwhile, Geo-seok turns out to be visiting a rival gangster's headquarters, where he then asks them to stop causing chaos and respect each other's territory. However, because they refused the offer of peace, Geo-seok was forced to beat them all and managed to overthrow the gangsters alone. Elsewhere, debt collectors go to Taek-il's mother to collect payment for the bakery. Taek-il and Sang-pil try to stop them, but because the debt collectors are from the same office as Sang-pil, Taek-il then misunderstands and thinks that Sang-pil has trapped his mother. However, his mother tells him she didn't borrow money from Sang-pil. One of the debt collectors finds an envelope of salary money that Taek-il gave to her mother, and then gives it to his boss. Taek-il's mother tries to politely ask for the envelope, but the boss refuses to give it. Taek-il tries desperately to grab the envelope even though he must be beaten to a pulp. Unwilling to see her son beaten and her son's first salary taken away, Taek-il's mother then got up and put out her skills as a professional volleyball player to beat the debt collectors and managed to retrieve Taek-il's salary envelope. Meanwhile, Geo-seok asks Tae-soon to take him to a restaurant, where he then borrows kitchen utensils to cook his own food. After that, Geo-seok tells Tae-soon that cooking and being a chef in a restaurant is his new life, and from now on, he will completely leave his old life as a gangster boss. Tae-soon finally understands that and respects Geo-seok's decision. After the incident, Taek-il reunites with his mother, and they decide to stay at Sang-pil's house for a while because their house has been confiscated to pay off debts. Meanwhile, Taek-il's mother's bakery is still being torn down. Even so, Taek-il's mother is relieved and happy that her son is back home and is now feeling better. So is Sang-pil. After that incident, Dong-hoo also decides to quit his moneylender and debt collector job and opens a simple fried chicken shop. On the other hand, Geo-seok decides to return to being a chef at Gong's diner. Meanwhile, Kyung-ju finally returns to school after officially becoming Gong's adoptive daughter. The film ends with Taek-il taking his mother for a ride on a used motorbike he bought. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that a mother's love will not be timeless and will not fade in the slightest, even though the child often hurts her heart. At the end of the day, a home is where we get the attention and affection of people who truly love us unconditionally, like our mothers.